All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. I never know how to start these things anymore. You're going to hear that a lot, so I'm not going to trip off that. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm LBThaRealist with Surrealistic Studios, Surreal News, where the real is surreal. Thank you for joining me on another segment. It's been a while since I did a video like this, actually. But something has happened in the political realm that I find myself a part of, engaging in, on and off. And that is the left movement, or the progressive left movement. Even more specifically, the radical progressive left movement, if you want to call it that. A lot of people just call it, fairness and equality, but some people would call it something else. It doesn't matter. But Dr. Cornel West is running for president of the United States as a Green Party member. And he recently went on the Jimmy Dore show. And they had a pretty contentious interview. And I just wanted to add my 2 cents, a little tidbit here and there of what I think happened and what I think is the issue between those two. So let's start with, first of all, the most recent news being that Jill Stein, former presidential candidate and professor of the Green Party, she came out and tweeted that it was actually her that recommended Peter Dao as Dr. Cornel West's campaign manager. Wow. So Peter Dao basically is a person that was a part of the Clinton Foundation. He supported Hillary Clinton. He worked with Hillary Clinton. He was basically going to bat for Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and basically he was not a progressive. He was not somebody that you would ever think would ever possibly work with a Jill Stein, let alone a Cornel West. But this is the case, in fact. And Jill Stein came out and said that she tweeted, I believe it was just today, or maybe yesterday, I forget how that works, time. I'm on a night shift now, so my brain is like, anyways, she tweeted that it was actually her that recommended Peter Dao to Dr. Cornel West. The reason why this is significant, aside from being that, who Peter Dao is, or who he was, apparently he's had a change of heart, and he's no longer, apparently, right? He's no longer a supporter. I'm not sure if he's no longer a supporter of the DNC or the Clintons, but he is now working with Dr. Cornel West. Apparently he hasn't been tweeting some of the same DNC talking points that he used to. But I don't know. To be perfectly clear, I don't follow Peter Dao. I'm not sure if I follow him on Twitter, technically, but I don't really follow his engagements on Twitter like that. I didn't follow him during the 2016 presidential election. I just didn't really focus on that aspect of political commentary. So I really can't tell you exactly who Peter Dao is and that I hate the guy or anything like that. I just know what other people have been saying. And this is what people are saying. So the reason why this is significant is because on Jimmy Dore's show, when he got into the contentious interview or the debate with Dr. Cornel West, right, because it turned into a debate after a while, Jimmy had said, I don't know who's informing you or giving you advice, but it sounds like they're an infiltrator. Now, Jimmy Dore recently came out on his show and called this out and said that he was right. In fact, that he called out the infiltrator being Peter Dao, because it came out later that Peter Dao is going to be Dr. Cornel West's campaign manager. So Jimmy's like, I was right. He's vindicated right now. Vindicated. Is that the right word? Yeah, it's the right word. He's vindicated right now because he's like, I knew, basically saying the reason why Dr. Cornel West had such a negative reaction is because he, in fact, his campaign is being infiltrated by Peter Dao. He's his campaign manager now. And that news has just come out in the coming or the days after that interview released. And now, today, we find out that Jill Stein was, in fact, the reasoning behind that. So, here's the thing. So, when Jimmy Dore said that, I don't know who is giving you advice, but they're giving you bad advice. This sounds like you got to infiltrate in your campaign. Dr. Cornel West, he felt personally attacked by that comment because it's for him. Now, this is my opinion, and I could be totally wrong on all of this, and call me out if I am, but these are just my thoughts. He felt like it was a personal attack against him because he's his own man, and those were his own personal thoughts. At least that's what he perceives. That's what I perceive him to believe, is that those are his own personal thoughts in regards to the interview that he had with Jimmy Dore, in which they talked about the COVID lockdowns, and if Joe Biden was a bigger fascist than Donald Trump, and this, that, and the other, right? So that's his belief. So when Jimmy Dore said, it sounds like you have an infiltrator in your campaign, Dr. Cornel West took personal offense to that. And the interview didn't go well from that point, Now, in Jimmy's defense, it does sound like Peter Dao has infiltrated Dr. Cornel West's campaign. Now, don't quote me, but I did read in the comment section somewhere in one of these videos that I've been perusing that that Peter Dao has been trying to work with the Green Party and has been met with some internal conflict. A lot of, I don't know if they call them delegates, or a lot of organization higher ups or decision makers that vote and have meetings about this kind of stuff. They actually rejected Peter Dao being a part of their organization. I'm not sure in what way, but this is something that I've been hearing. Take it for what you will, a grain of salt or two. But apparently he's been trying to get in good with the progressives and the radical leftists, if you want to call them radical leftists. I know I got a lot of right-leaning people on my channel, that's cool too. But yeah, so that's strange. So I think so Dr. Cornel West took offense to that. Like I said, in Jimmy's defense, it does sound like this guy is up to no good, Peter Dao. But again, if I could criticize Jimmy Dore, I would say you got to be careful the way you phrase these things and the way you speak to people, because one of Dr. Cornel West's biggest things is that he felt disrespected. He felt that Jimmy was disrespectful in his tone and the way he was speaking to him. And I gotta admit, as a person that was watching it, I have to agree. I don't 100% agree that Jimmy Dore was being intentionally disrespectful, but his tone was sort of, I don't know if passive aggressive is the right phrase or wording to use to describe it, but it was antagonistic to watch. It was very uncomfortable, and it seemed as though Jimmy was being antagonistic to Dr. Cornel West. Now, to also criticize Dr. Cornel West, he was not the best at deflecting those criticisms of him. He was not the best at just letting stuff go and just moving on to the next point. He did go, like Jimmy said, he did go out of his way to make it more of a debate with Jimmy rather than an interview. When he said there was one part of the interview where Dr. Cornel West said he wanted to create a commission to really find out, the truth on what happened with the COVID lockdowns and, this, that, and the other, et cetera, et cetera. And Jimmy Dore was doing like this, and he was like, yes, I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree with you, after a bit of contentiousness during the interview. But then Dr. Cornel West couldn't just, leave it at that and end on a good note. He went further by saying, but I have to disagree with you if you think, quote unquote, I'm paraphrasing, if you think that Joe Biden is a bigger fascist or a bigger threat than Donald Trump. And that's where the conversation devolved again. And, it's just unfortunate because I really feel like this was just an unfortunate case of miscommunication. If Dr. Cornel West could, and a big thing of this whole interview had to do with Dr. Cornel West's initial message. Now, Dr. Cornel West's initial message, from what I understand, is he's going against white supremacy. He's standing up for Black people, LGBTQ, the most vulnerable groups in America. And Jimmy Dore was coming from a standpoint of you need to be calling out the COVID lockdowns and the vaccine mandates and also this illusion that Donald Trump is a bigger fascist or a bigger threat than Joe Biden will be or has already been. So those two subjects that's where the conversation really devolved. And that was like Jimmy Dore's lines in the sand, and he said he felt disappointed. He felt heartbroken that Dr. Cornel West didn't have more of an opinion, or he didn't want to talk about these issues, or he didn't think that these issues were important enough. Now, in Dr. Cornel West's defense, again, I'm going back and forth here because Dr. Cornel West isn't 100% right, and Jimmy Dore isn't 100% right. Dr. Cornel West is 100% right in certain aspects of the conversation, and Jimmy Dore is 100% right in certain aspects of the conversation, but they're not, neither one of them are hearing each other, and they're not being fair to each other. Okay, so this is where I have to break things down more and add my 2 cents and add a little bit more nuance from a person that was spectating. One of Dr. Cornel West's initial message is white supremacy. He's railing against white supremacy, and Jimmy Dore doesn't agree with that. Jimmy Dore said that he doesn't think that you shouldn't talk about white supremacy at all. Just that you shouldn't spearhead your campaign with it in terms of a presidential election. When you're running to be president of the United States, you're running to be president of not just black people, but black people, Mexican, Latino, Asian, mostly white people, let's be honest. And most of these white people are not going to want to hear about reparations. They're not going to want to hear about white supremacy. Why? Because they don't agree with it. It makes them uncomfortable. Jimmy even said the dreaded word, and I hate this word so much. And it's funny because he said that in talking about white supremacy, he equated it with identity politics. And this is what the Democrats do. But at the same time, Jimmy Dore said this word. He said that talking about white supremacy is divisive. That, my friend, to me, in my humble opinion, is also a Democrat or a DNC talking point. That we can't talk about these deep issues because it's divisive. We can't talk about reparations. It's divisive. And that's a whole nother subject, so I don't want to go there, but this is what Cornel West was saying, that his big thing is white supremacy, and he's not going to change who he is as a black man, to appease uncomfortable white people. And I believe that was his point. And I can understand where he's coming from in regards to that, because that's how he took it. Now, I don't think that Jimmy Dore meant it in that way. Like I said, Jimmy Dore said that I don't think that you shouldn't talk about these issues at all. It's just that you shouldn't spearhead your campaign with it. Where I think Jimmy Dore gets it wrong is that you cannot ask this person who's, number one, already made up their mind about a presidential campaign. He's not thinking about running. He's not thinking about the issues he wants to run on. He's not making this stuff up as he goes. He's already thought about this. Is pre-planned. You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell him these are the things that you should care about. And if you don't care about it, well, you're a loser. You're a loser. And he said that. He was like, he meant that your campaign is a loser, but really it sounded like he's calling Dr. West a loser. Really, that's what it is. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it. He was calling him a loser. So you can't tell this 70-year-old black man who's been dealing with white supremacy, who's been dealing with racism, Jim Crow laws, who's been dealing with all this stuff, coming up in the ranks, going to Yale, going to Harvard, all of this stuff. You can't tell this man who's got 12 years on you to not care about the things that he cares about as much as he needs to care about them. It doesn't matter if he's running for president or not. He's going to care about and spearhead his campaign with what he's going to spearhead it with. It's up to you at that point to either support him or not support him. But you can't bring him on an interview and then roast him on an interview and then get mad at him and call him a loser and say that you're holding his feet to the fire. You're not holding his feet to the fire, Jimmy, if he's not elected yet. I mean, okay, I understand that you can hold, presidential elects feet to the fire on certain issues so that they actually do stuff about it once they actually get in office. But was that ever the agreement? Has he ever shown you anything that told you that he was that type of candidate, that was what he was going to spearhead his campaign on? No, he's not that type. I watched an interview, or not an interview. I watched a video by, I believe his name is Garland Nixon, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. A smart, intelligent brother. I said smart, intelligent. He's smart and intelligent. Yeah, I said it. But anyways, he said basically that his take was that Dr. Cornel West is a reformist. He wants to reform the system that we already have, versus Jimmy Dore. He's I forgot the word he used, but he's not a reformist. He's a revolutionist. He wants to completely wipe out the system that we have and replace it with a new system. And that's where they were clashing heads. But I think it's a lot deeper than just reform and revolution. I think it's like I said, Dr. Cornel West felt like his blackness, felt like his identity as a person was being attacked by Jimmy Dore, who was also white. And not to bring race into it, a lot of people hate when you bring race into these conversations, but I'm sorry, as a black man in America, as a black person, as a person of color in America, we can't ever forget about race. It's not something that we can do. We're constantly reminded of it every single day. And it just, whether it's through somebody saying something, through somebody looking at us the wrong way, through feelings and intentions, like we don't exactly know people's intentions, but we can kind of feel them out. You know, when you feel something negative, you know, we can kind of feel that something's there. You can feel the tension in the air. You know, we deal with that. So we can't never bring up race, you know, but to Dr. Cornel West, he felt like his race was being attacked, and he felt like Jimmy Dore was asking him, which I know this wasn't the case, but he felt like Jimmy Dore was asking him to not feel or to not talk about the things that he cares and feels so much about in regards to a presidential election. And Dr. Cornel West is like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to change my tune just to make you and people like you feel better. Jimmy Dore's point, and you know, in his defense, I totally understand what Jimmy Dore was saying when he said that, you know, people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. That is the truth. And when you're talking in terms of a presidential election, it may behoove you to not spearhead your campaign with like reparations and let's be flat out and let's keep it 100 black issues, because white people don't want to hear, and not all white people, because some actually do, but you know, it seems like half or the majority of white people don't want to hear about black issues. And that's the sad reality of it. Whether you agree with that or not, that is the reality. So I think Jimmy Dore has it right in terms of a presidential election. Yeah, he's correct. He shouldn't spearhead his whole campaign with white supremacy, because half the country, let's just say that half the country don't want to hear it. Half the country don't want to hear it. And that's the truth. You know, so again, where I think Jimmy Dore gets this wrong is he's not being racially sensitive enough. And I know that might sound like weird, like, oh, he's not being sensitive. Like you won't really understand if you're not black in particular, not even a person of color. If you're not black in particular, you will never truly understand the experience of a black person in this country. And Jimmy Dore admitted to this when he had an interview with Nico House. Shout out to Nico House for having that interview with Jimmy Dore, because Nico House actually called Jimmy Dore out a bit and said that you have a blind spot on some of these issues. And Jimmy Dore admitted, yes, I'm sure I have blind spots. And Dr. Cornel West has blind spots. Like, I agree with Jimmy Dore when he says that Dr. Cornel West should care more about the COVID restrictions and about lockdowns and about vaccine mandates, because I was one of those black channels. I was one of those small black businesses who got obliterated by COVID, by lockdowns. You know what I'm saying? I lost my job twice. I went from full-time to part-time to no job twice because of COVID, because of lockdowns. I lost my grandmother because of COVID-19. Truthfully, she had COPD, yeah, but COVID definitely sped up her timeline. You know, COVID, this stuff actually does affect us. And it's one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest stories in the last decade. So of course, Dr. Cornel West should care more about this stuff, but it's not up to you, Jimmy, or anybody to roast him on an interview, in a video. It's up to you to enlighten him about these things in a cordial and a respectful manner. And I'm sorry, Jimmy failed in that aspect. I love Jimmy to death, but he failed in that aspect. And Dr. Cornel, he failed because he allowed, Jimmy can have reactions, you know, but he should have been better in asking his questions. He should have been better in accepting what Cornel was saying and where he was coming from as a black candidate, and should have just left it at that and said, well, Dr. Cornel West, I respect you and everything you're saying. I disagree. I just hope that you will look into the subject a little further so that you can have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. And I will also in turn look into white supremacy, and I will look into reparations, and I will actually look into black issues, and I will talk to actual black organizations who are doing things to improve the lives of everyday black people in this country, because I need that understanding. I need to know so that I can talk about these things, so that I can understand your positions more efficiently and more effectively. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think. I wish Jimmy, and not to say that he doesn't have, black voices on like Nick, you know, RB, Revolutionary Black Activist, or whatever their channel is called. You know, shout out to them. Nico House. Not to say that he doesn't you know, he shared one of my tweets before, so I got a few more Twitter followers. You know, not to say that, and on YouTube too, you know what I'm saying? So not to say that he doesn't prop up black voices, but I don't think that he talks to enough actual black organizations that are actually doing things to improve the lives of not all people, just black people. Just black people. So I wish Jimmy Dore would do that, because he does have a blind spot in regards to black issues, and a lot of people do. A lot of white people do. You know, we're not asking you to apologize for your race. He came out, you know, in a recent video and said, oh, I guess I should apologize for being white. Do I need to apologize? No, you don't need to apologize for being white. Nobody's asking you to do that. We're just asking you to please educate yourself more so that you have a deeper understanding of where we're coming from. We know that you're never going to completely understand, but at least you can have a better understanding of the points that we're making, of the points that black people are making when you say certain things that triggers us. And Dr. Cornel West, I would say my critique of him is, don't be triggered so much of other people. Don't be in a rush to get into a debate with points that you should be agreeing on, and don't flat out disregard or shut out people or certain subjects just because you're not well versed on it. Be open-minded to the COVID lockdowns. Be open-minded to all of these things that Jimmy Dore was talking about, because these are things that people are really, you know, these are things that we hold important, that we know are important, and these are things that we talk about. Now, this whole Peter Dao thing, I would say, is crazy. It is crazy to me. I don't know what's going on with that decision, but here we are. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure I'm going to have a little bit more to say about this subject, as I think this was just off the cuff. But again, my name is LBThaRealist. If you want to support this show, you guys already know, hit the links. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, folks. Remember, love, peace, and light. Love from the heart. You ain't got to apologize for being white. White people love your white skin. I love you. And also, love my black skin, because my black skin loves you. It's all love over here. You know what I'm saying? And as long as it's all love with you, it's all love with me. And as long as we can talk to each other respectfully and cordially, we can talk about anything. And we can get past it. And at the end of the day, if you still don't understand me and I still don't understand you, let's shake hands. Let's all just be love, and let's all just be one, because at the end of the day, that's all we are. You know, we're one people. So mind you, Mexico just unveiled some 1,000-year-old alien mummies. So when the aliens come, we better start coexisting together as humans, because we don't know what's going on with them right now. All right, so let's all come together, folks. And until next time, do something kind for somebody else out there, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm out.